Welcome to this episode of Ready, Fire, Aim. I'm your host, Thad Barnes. Today's episode is powered by the NXC Podcast Network, a platform that supports over 1,500 shows with sponsorship opportunities, placements, and access to more than 14 million monthly viewers. Now, our guest today comes straight from the NXC Podcast Network, and I'm stoked to have him on. Russell Faucette is founder of Omada Real Estate. Russ, great to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I kind of wanted to dive into how you got started in real estate. It's kind of a tough time to be a realtor. And so I'm curious, kind of when this all got together and where you're at.
Yeah. So, kind of how far back you want to go, right? So I guess as far as how I got started in real estate, I started back, what was it? Probably 2007 when I got in really when it was hot. I mean, the market was going crazy. And so I actually was on the investor side. And I worked for the local home investor franchise and I was their acquisitions manager. So I would go out, I would meet with homeowners and, try to buy their homes at a discount, create win-win situations for them. And then we actually, we were wholesalers. We would close on a couple and flip them, but mainly wholesaling the properties. And so that's how I started in real estate. And then as we know, shortly after that, the market completely took a shift on us. So I went from buying 5 to 6 homes a month to I bought like 2 in a 6-month period. So complete, like just I was part of that with everyone else. And, equity went away. And so we weren't buying those properties like we were before. And so naturally, kind of what that led to is starting to get into short sales. And so in 2009 here in Utah, they came out with the rule that you had to be a licensed real estate agent to negotiate a short sale. And so that's why I got my real estate license, is because they said to do what I was doing that I needed to have a real estate license.
Interesting. Do you think that was like a cash grab? Or I mean, what was the impetus for requiring that? It seems like short sales are so common. Why would you need a real estate license just for that?
Yeah, I don't really know why they came out. I think it was probably with a lot of things. I think it was looking at the consumers and trying to make sure that they were protected by a professional, right? Someone that when you're negotiating with banks and dealing with financials and things like that, I just look back and say it was probably just looking to protect people from, essentially from someone that might be predatory in that situation.
That makes sense. Actually, the government looking out for the little guy, who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did. Is I ended up, it's crazy. I do have a little bit of a backwards journey of owning a residential brokerage. And because I've actually never been just that full-time real estate agent working with buyers and sellers. I've definitely done tons and tons of transactions, but my background is I've always been kind of on the business building and systems side. And so with that, as short sales became more prominent, I actually partnered with a law firm and we negotiated short sales for other real estate agents. And so we built out a system. Typically on average, we had about 200 to 250 files at a time that we were negotiating with the banks. And so that's how I started really getting to know a lot of the local real estate agents around here. Is we actually negotiated for most of the top producers in the state of Utah. And so they would go out, they would get the listing, but their clients would come into our law firm, sit down, we would go over the process with them. And what I liked about that is it created kind of that level of separation for the real estate agent where they could go and do their job and not have to worry about, collecting a lot of the sensitive information. And where I had partnered with the law firm, I had the backing of the law firm to do that. And so that was, I did that for a couple of years, and then, the market shifted again. And so I found myself, and I found myself in this spot again of like, what am I doing? I got into real estate, it crashed, ran through short sales. Now short sales are kind of drying up. And so I found myself actually without a job because we didn't have enough short sales to continue that. And at that point, I'll be honest, I was ready to jump in. I had a buddy that went into banking, one of my college roommates, and he had kind of climbed that corporate ladder. And I was like, okay, maybe that's what I need to do. But then, I ended up having a conversation with the then owner of the Stern team, Joshua Stern, and we decided that I would come in and run, I started out running his transactions, but eventually moving into that director of operations role of running the number one producing team in the state of Utah. And so that was kind of how I got into, again, into just more of the traditional residential side, was running the back end of the Stern team. So taking care of our marketing, the transactions, hiring of other admin. And so that was where I really started getting in working with agents. And so if you look me up, yeah, I average probably 6 to 8 transactions a year personally of friends and family. But I've been a part of, with the short sales and with the operation side, thousands of transactions that I've actually helped facilitate.
And so at some point, either you get that entrepreneurial bug, right? And you want to go out on your own, or you don't. It sounds like you did. Is it like that far ago, or long that long ago? Or when did Omada become like this thing, like, okay, Stern's been great to me, but
Yeah.
I want to do my own thing?
Yeah. So I've always had kind of that bug, but there's also kind of the I guess being a little bit of afraid to take the jump. But the other thing, so rewind the story a little bit more, is I personally dug a hole that didn't allow me to kind of make that jump into entrepreneur. And so when I say that, I was not immune to the, crash as many Americans were. So in 2011, in that period of going from buying homes to getting into short sales, I did go through 6 months of not having an income. And that what that ended up doing is I did have student loans. I ended up I was going to school early on in some of this, and so I started getting student loans to actually keep up my lifestyle, and they weren't the student they weren't government backed, they were private student loans. And so I found that quickly, like, it was really easy to get them. And so I applied for them and I ended up with attorney debt for my undergrad, which was horrible because had grown accustomed to a lifestyle that I ended up maintaining through student loans. Well, after I graduated, oh, you have to actually pay those back, right?
Oh, by the way,
Yeah. And so I found myself in this period, I'm not making money, and I defaulted on everything. I ended up not paying my student loans. I ended up not paying my mortgage. And kind of my low point was I actually got to the point where I had maxed out my credit cards. I wasn't going to be able to borrow any more money. I didn't have the money to make my mortgage payment, and I ended up taking a shoebox to Walmart that had coins in it to cash out to feed my family. And I was
wow.
like, "What are you doing?" That was definitely I can see it in my mind, a moment of, I've got to change. Something has to change. And so I did have a job at that point. I was negotiating short sales, but I ended up going and getting another job. So I would finish up, banks close at 5, 6 o'clock. So I wasn't able to continue going. I would go from there to work for a builder, doing finish work. And my job was to caulk baseboards. So I
Okay.
would work till like 1 in the morning caulking baseboards. And
Oh,
there was a lot of time, like, I was by myself, no one else, to start thinking of what I wanted to do. But really, what it came down to was, I'm going to get out of this hole. I defaulted on a couple things. I did end up short selling, but over time, I ended up paying off my student loans. Luckily, I only had one credit card and its limit was $500. So I didn't dig a big hole with credit cards. And I think it was a good learning lesson for me, because they were student loans, I couldn't just go file bankruptcy. Like, I had to get them paid back. And so even though I started making income, I joined the Stern team in 2014, worked on starting to get more of that income. It took me about 7 years to completely recover, to get back to what I would say baseline zero. But 2014 was working, had my job as the director of operations. And in 2019, my business partner, that I have now, Jeremy Martin, we had developed a friendship. He was actually a lead listing agent on the Stern team. And he knew my background of being an acquisitions manager at Homevestors. And his background was actually, he was an electrician and installed power lines and knew the construction side inside and out. And as we talked about it, we decided it was kind of time to start doing something different. We were both in about the exact same financial situation of we were paying our bills, but we weren't getting ahead. And so he came across on one of his listing appointments, he came across a property that was kind of the perfect situation for a pretty simple cosmetic flip. And he's like, dude, I think we should start flipping homes, or we're going to flip this house. So in that, and it was definitely a roll of the dice of its time. We had a conversation. We both went home to our spouses and our families, and we said, guys, we're done doing what we've done. We've been in this grind. We're either going to go big or we're going to be bankrupt. And there is nothing in between. The whole ready, fire, aim, like that was what we did. So we went out. We both applied for, I think, 4 credit cards each. We got a hard money loan that was 100% of the purchase price. And we flipped this house on credit cards.
Wow. Holy smokes.
And so that was in 2019. That was our first house that we flipped. But the one thing we did with that is we did not touch any of the proceeds as far as taking it home to our families. And so that was the start of over the next 2 years, between 2019 and 2021, we flipped 32 homes.
Right
And
in the middle of the pandemic.
right in it was amazing. Everyone else kind of went away. So honestly, it was very easy to find homes because so many people pulled out of the market. And so we flipped, those homes, and that gave us, as far as you kind of leading back to the question of when did you get that bug, right? So kind of 2019 was the throw my hands up in the air, I've got to do something. And so in 2021, that was when Jeremy and I decided it was time to do our own thing. And so we ended up talking with the owner of the Stern team and letting him know that it was time for us to do something else. And through that conversation, we talked about actually buying the Stern team. Like, he gave that as an option of like, hey, you're the director of operations, Jeremy, you're the number one listing agent. Like, I'm at a point in my life that I want to leave a legacy. So as opposed to me having to get back in and kind of run things again, let's look at what an acquisition would look like. And so we worked through that, and we ended up buying the Stern team in 2021. And honestly, like, we could have just done that. Like, we're one of the top producing teams here in the state of Utah. We have a good reputation with the Stern team. It's been around for 20 plus years, but I say I get bored, I guess, a little bit. But really what fueled the move for Omada was we started trying to grow, to different areas and looking at what our real estate agents wanted. So we had one of our listing agents that their goal was to be a principal broker. We had another listing agent that their goal was to get into coaching. And what we had seen over the last couple of years is on a team, you get to this point where it's like, guys, I don't have any opportunity for you, go to the brokerage, or you're going to have to go build something yourself. And we didn't love that. We didn't love bringing people up to this point and then not having an opportunity for them to do anything else. And so that's when we went to the drawing board of like, okay, how do we create an opportunity that people can grow and never have to leave us? So we still have the Stern team. We're still running the Stern team, but almost, a little shy. We're 11 months into Omada. But what we were able to do now is with our Omada model, we have kind of that opportunity where we can take someone from, brand new. We have the training to teach them to then kind of be that real estate agent, then move them into kind of the position of team lead. And then eventually, if they want to be a broker, there's a path to be a broker. If they want to be a trainer, there's a path to be a trainer. And also taking our Stern team model, we just brought on a broker that is completely adopting our systems with his brokerage to essentially duplicate what the Stern team did. And so we're taking this of like, we now have a career path of, if you want to be a trainer coach, we can get you there. If you want to be a broker, you can be there. If you want to be a team lead, or if you just want to be a high producing real estate agent, we also have the systems and models to take you from brand new to getting it to the point where you can be that repeat and referral agent.
So it seems like a complete ecosystem, like where usually you see a very clear delineation between real estate agent, broker, continuing education, you guys have kind of all brought that into one and made it this ecosystem where not only does a person get to grow with you, but the company grows as a result of them growing.
Right. Yeah. And then kind of the last unique piece with it as well, the model that we've done, with our real estate agents, we're also going out to our home service professionals and working with them. And so growing that, because at the end of the day, our product is different, but most home professionals are set up kind of, or at least there is a part of that industry that is set up with independent contractors, right? So whether they're the electrician, the plumber, our general contractor, our pest control company, like a lot of these guys are starting their one man, two man shows and they don't know how to kind of take that economy to scale. And one of the things that we are very good at, and we actually have created our own marketing company. So we have Omada Marketing that can facilitate and run, the ads and the social media campaigns and everything for the home services side. And by having that, we also, my business partner, Jeremy Martin, is our qualifier. We have a general contracting license, and then we have our real estate company. And then we did 2 years ago, we bought a property management company as well. And what
Oh,
the idea was behind all of this is I do look at it as one company that has different departments. But the idea is that, as someone grows their database, we don't want to just be their real estate agent for a real estate transaction. So we've vetted, as a general contractor, we have all of our subcontractors that we're vetting and making sure that they are, very good to work with. And we've brought to where we kind of control that side as well. And so if someone needs a plumber, they can call their agent. We can dispatch them. We can get the plumber out for them. And then as we become profitable with the home services side, then we are taking the model of then we can profit share with the agents, and through a revenue share structure. We do revenue share on the real estate transactions, but we're actually revenue sharing with the home services as well, and we're able to do that with kind of that overall company of, we're just profit sharing as people use our home services as well.
seems like a natural progression, right? Because almost every real estate agent I know is also a property manager on some level,
Right.
right? They seem to go hand in hand. And so to just have that wing of the company that's just built in, so it's already there, that's pretty ingenious. I mean,
Yeah.
this just seems like a no-brainer.
And it is like, and the other thing, it's funny, I think with technology, at least what I'm starting to feel is we're kind of making this swing. Technology is going to be able to do a lot of things, right? But at the end of the day, there's still peace of mind and comfort. And I'm going through a bathroom remodel right now. And like the fact that I know my general contractor and can have real conversations with him, or I know that the plumber that he's bringing in is, someone that's been vetted, that I didn't just go find. Because with Google reviews or with Yelp reviews, whatever, I mean, there's a lot of just, how much can you really trust those reviews? And so knowing that, like, okay, like I have a friend, I have someone in my corner that is going to help me through this process. And so knowing that, like, yes, I can go online and I can book, there's technologies I can book these appointments or whatever. Well, we wanted to make sure we establish and maintain the relationship so that really, like, you don't have to worry about it. Like, just call me. If something's going wrong, like with your home, just call me and I'll get it taken care of for you. So providing that higher level of service for people to give them peace of mind, because they want to know that they're going to get quality work. They want to know their real estate agent, and bringing back the personal touch, and as agents, technology allows us to do that for more people. But I still think that the personal touch and the relationship is always going to be there, because you're bringing people into your home, and there's just that high level of trust that you have to have when bringing people into your home.
It's a very, you'd say, like a concierge approach, right?
Right.
Where you go to a high-end hotel, they have a concierge. You can ask them anything about the city. Where do I go for dinner? What kind of attractions are there? What cab company? I mean, you can just ask anything, and the concierge is there to help you get it taken care of. So I love that approach, especially in the real estate world where I mean, how many homes does the average person buy in their lifetime? One or maybe two?
Right.
Even if you've done it before, you probably don't remember it. It was 10 years ago, it was 20 years ago. So, kind of having someone that can not only walk you through that process, but be there for all the other myriad of things that will happen in your home.
Right.
I love what you guys are doing.
Well, even just the simple thing of like, hey, that reminder to replace your furnace filter, right? Like there are so many people that don't do that. And so just being able to have a company that is watching out to make sure you're taking care of your home so that things last longer, right? So I am that concierge, the ambassador for you of like, hey, just and sometimes it's just email, right? Or a text message of like, hey, just a reminder that your furnace filter needs replaced. Or right now we're working with our homeowners right now of, hey, it's time. Utah, the season changes. We go from summer to we get a week of fall, and then we're in winter. And so we go from needing to water your lawn to you better get it, your sprinklers winterized or they're going to freeze and crack. And so being able to provide that for our homeowners, give them the hey, it's time to get that. Not only is it time to get it done, but we also here's a professional. We can get you on the calendar and on the schedule to do that. And really, we're just wrapping it in with the property management schedule because we're doing that for all of our homeowners on the property management side. So as we're going out to the different cities, we can just build it in with where our lawn guy's going to be anyways, and just providing that additional level of service to our homeowners.
I see that you guys are like super forward thinking. I know a lot of realtors and a lot of brokerages where I'm at in Reno, but I don't know anybody that's doing the level of care that you guys are doing and the forward thinking you have. In terms of forward thinking, where do you see AI fitting into it? And I like to ask this question because it's the hot topic, right? Everybody's
Right.
talking about AI, but I haven't seen anybody that's really pushing AI into the real estate world. And I don't know why that is. So I thought, this is the perfect time to ask somebody that's forward
Right.
thinking, where do you see that fitting in?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of like, there's definitely an unknown of where it's going to be. But just as I look at my own behavior, and honestly, that's how I gauge, I'm not unique. I'm not different than a lot of people, right? And I already find myself using AI more than I'm using Google. So just starting to ask those questions. So, what is it going to look like? People are going to say, like, I'm instead of going honestly even to Zillow or to Google or to my website, they're going to jump into AI and say, hey, I'm looking for this home and it's going to be delivered. I would anticipate that at some point they're going to be able to book an actual appointment to go see the home, as far as that goes. And same thing with, I think over time, it'll be normal to just everything's going through AI. You're going to get the responses through AI, and that's going to be available for everyone. Like the technology will be there. So it doesn't matter if you're at Omada, at another brokerage, whatever, that technology is going to be there and consumers are going to use it. And so that's where I look at it though. And the reason why we're looking and leaning into the home services a little bit is someone once asked me what keeps me up at night. And my response was, what do we do when commission goes away or commission goes down to $500? Because they look at it as someone that's there to more just give a second set of eyes of validation on the offer that they've generated with AI, or the second set of eyes or I've went and opened the door because they did their research online. They looked at the property online. But I do think that there are certain parts of our job that aren't going to be replaced by AI because you can definitely, there is technology, with my doorknob, I can let someone in. I can put in the code, you're going to be there, let them in, doorbell, I can see when they're leaving, I could lock back up. What I can't control though is does someone get sticky fingers as they're walking through my home? Or, do you let the wrong person in? And, I don't like going here, but the first time there's a rape, a murder, and assault, right? Because there wasn't a real estate professional or someone there to kind of mitigate that, because you will have homeowners that also say, well, I don't want anyone just there by my, without me there. So I'm going to stay at my house to make sure they don't get the sticky fingers. And then the wrong person gets in and something terrible happens, right? And so there's a layer of security that I think the real estate agent is always going to play. There's a layer of security on the second set of eyes on the contract or talking through the situations. I've been there before. I know AI can give us a lot of responses, but this is what we need to do to get the transaction done. And so I do believe that as a real estate agent, we are going to become more and more of just a consultant that it only takes, maybe a couple hours to get the transaction done as opposed to what we're doing right now. And so as I looked at that and said, okay, how do I create a business model such that if real estate commissions go down to $500 or $1,000, how do we stay employed? And as I looked at that with AI, we're a long ways from AI or that robot being able to go in and turn a wrench or mow the lawn or winterize the sprinklers, or I've got rentals that were built in 1904. I promise you, AI is not going to go in there and turn that wrench to fix the leak. And so I looked at it as a little bit of a hedge of we're going to bring this all into one. We're going to develop, also, we're going to plug into AI so that we become a platform. So people use our tools, our technology for when they need the home services, when they need the real estate agent. We're going to use that. We're going to do push marketing to get it to them. But I do believe, and we've already seen it, commission compression is real and it's going to continue to go down. And the days of, it, and people will argue with me of like, oh, Russ, you just need to learn to sell your value. And I'm like, yes, I can be a good salesman. I can sell my value. But at the end of the day, if I know I've only put an hour's worth of work into this transaction facilitating because AI did a lot of it and things like that, I'll be honest, I have a hard time charging $90,000 for a commission.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, and if I'm feeling that, there will be someone that also looks at the technology and says, okay, how do we do this? How do we take advantage of technology to be able to get that down? And before long, you will have more and more, low fee, flat fee brokerages that are popping up for the consumer. And so we look at that of like, okay, now we see kind of this rush of marketing companies and different things that are popping up that are making more of that residual income. So as I look at it, right, eventually kind of taking the property management concept again to Omada to where we're not just working for investors, but we have homeowners on a maintenance package that allows them to just know, okay, I've paid these services, these guys are taking care of my home, and we're making money on little incremental fees of maintenance as opposed to large sums in one transaction. So again, I rambled a lot going back to what do I see AI doing? I see AI honestly being a facilitator of you're going to be able to go in and check your home value. You're going to be able to, honestly say, I want to list my home and at some point be able to click through to be able to list online, without ever meeting with someone. I think again, kind of where our job is going to be is to be the facilitator, to use AI, use the technology, and then we're going to have to build relationships so that people do use our technology as opposed to just opening up Chat GPT.
Well, and that's where I see kind of AI too, is that if it's doing all the menial tasks, if you will, that's where it allows us to build better, stronger relationships with our clients.
Right.
Right? And that concierge concept is even more important because it's sort of like the rise of Google, right? We used to have to memorize everything in school. We had to memorize all this trivial knowledge that we may or may not ever use in the rest of our lifetime. Now with Google, we memorize trivial knowledge at a far lower rate because we can just Google it. Well, now very rapidly we can just ask ChatGPT. And so it's the same kind of thing where I don't need to know all the process of real estate and brokerage and who's going to change my air filter and maintain my water sprinklers. AI is going to handle all that for me. What I need to do is have a good relationship with Russell and his team because I know they're going to take care of me because I know them really well.
Yeah. And really, I think across the board, like relationships are going to become more and more important. And people are actually going to be seeking those out. As I think we saw in COVID, we were all in kind of the shell. And as we go forward, I'm even seeing it with some of the younger generation. And we had the conversation yesterday of we're actually seeing kind of the young kids, being like, no, I want experiences. I'm not going to just bury my head in the phone. Like, yeah, it's there, it's available. I think for our generation, it was like, this is new, it's unique, we've leaned into it. And it's kind of once it's just the norm that that's available. And yeah, I can talk to it or I can send a message or whatever. There's not going to be so much emphasis on that. And people, I think, will get back into experiences. And this is high level of, I think, as a society as a whole, you're going to find more and more of the income and what people are paying for are the experiences? How do you make them feel? Because technology is going to do a lot of it, like a lot of the jobs, and we will almost have to reinvent kind of what it means to work and how are we going to provide value, because at the end of the day, that's what people pay for. You're
Yeah.
compensated for the value that you bring. And so we will have to sit back and say, okay, how do I bring value to consumers, to real estate agents, and be able to make money doing it. And as long as we're providing value and just shifting and looking, what is the economy doing? What are homeowners doing? We just have to continue to look at how can I provide value, and as long as we provide value, I believe the income follows.
Well, you make a great point about experiences too, because we're seeing that in commercials now. Like Airbnb is starting to have commercials where they're talking about the experiences you have as a consequence of being in the city where you rented the Airbnb, right? It's no
Yep.
longer about you can get a great deal. You don't have to get a whole, hotel room at a really expensive place, but you can get an Airbnb and get the experiences in the city all mixed into one. So
Yep.
it's really critical that those experiences are at the forefront, right? Because AI is taking care of so much behind the scenes.
Well, and I also think that there is still going to be huge value, though, of having the human that provides validation, because technology can be hacked, it can be manipulated, right? And so who knows, like, okay, I submit this, it tells me what it's worth, but who's going to validate that? And do we have that high level of trust where we're seeing celebrities that people are impersonating by building out an AI, or phone calls people are getting robocalled with cops saying that, hey, you need to pay this fine? And like, I don't think that stuff's going to go away either. And so I do think the human validation of like, okay, AI gave me all this. Is it right? There is going to be still a person that you need to trust because of the amount of what I'm seeing, the amount of misinformation, the fake news, like all of the different things that we're seeing that comes with technology. At least I guess I believe that you're going to still need someone for human validation to just kind of fact check what's actually out there.
Yeah, it's crazy with the amount of AI that's out there, and I wonder how long it'll be before celebrities are AI celebrities, right? Right now, we can clone Kim Kardashian or whoever, but how long before she's no longer relevant and it's this AI personality that was created? And then where do you go for validation? You go to another person to figure out, do I believe this? Is this, is it something worth watching? You're still going to always have that friendship, that connection to somebody that you want a personal connection with that isn't AI because they're no longer a real person that's a celebrity anymore.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's with celebrities. I think it's with really everything, is that, and maybe it is just because I love relationships. I mean, that's part of being in this industry, right? Of having genuine relationships with people. And I think is we look all the way back as humans, community has always been part of what we desired. Like, people, you put them in isolation, they can go crazy. I mean, it's tough if you've ever been in isolation for more than just a small period of time. And so I think community is going to become more and more important as we grow as a society, and making sure that as we grow in these communities and get back to some of the traditional things that we used to do, of having that neighborhood barbecue or whatever it might be, that we provide value to our communities.
I have to ask, what is Omada, right? Because it's not your last name, it's not your partner's last
Right.
name. How was this formed?
Yeah. So one of the things that is, I looked at naming a real estate company, I quickly thought, like, I don't want this to be my name, because it's more than me. Like, it's not about Russell, it's not about my business partner Jeremy. Like, we want it to be more. And so honestly, it was a little bit of a late night Google search, what domains are available type thing. But Omada means team in Greek, and so it was all about you know this is what is Omada. Well, we're a team, we're a community. So I honestly, as we kind of set on, we want it to be around team or family or things like that. Then I went into the different languages of like, okay, well, that's not available in Spanish, that's not available in French. Like, what is it? And Omada Real Estate was available, and so we leaned into that, and that's we love it. We've kind of leaned into this Greek theme. Actually, one of our tallest peaks here, not the tallest, but one of the big prominent mountains here in Salt Lake County is Mount Olympus. And so we've just kind of leaned into this Greek theme, and we're playing on that with, our boot camp training. We've renamed it to our Agoge training, which was a boot camp for Sparta. And so we're just leaning into the Greek theme, kind of having fun with it. But Omada means team.
Okay. I gotcha. I'm seeing all these, 300 guys, Sparta and all that.
Yeah, our boot camp's not quite as brutal, but we still do put you through kind of the boot camp of getting you on the phones and making sure you're ready to be a real estate professional.
So even in these times, I mean, I'm not sure about Utah, but in Nevada where I am, I mean, houses sit on the market for months and months and months now, and people can't lower the price because they're trying to move somewhere else and they need the equity. People coming in and wanting to be a realtor right now, it sounds like you've got a pretty good system to just help them really get started and a reputation that backs them up right away.
Yep. Yeah, and kind of the big thing is, as a whole, the transaction count is definitely down, right? Homes are less affordable than they've ever been. Sellers have a ton of equity and a low interest rate, and so they're keeping their homes. And so when we talk to a real estate agent, though, we show them that there's still, hundreds, thousand transactions happening every single month. And so we need to make sure we're doing one of those transactions, because to make a living, where we sit today, doing 2 transactions a month can still provide a comfortable 6-figure income. And so as we look at that, we just say, okay, like, the days of being an order taker really are kind of behind us. Like, yes, we do things that we work to get the bottom of funnel leads, but we like to look at us as matchmakers. So we've got our database, we're working the database of going through and making sure that we understand every single one of our homeowners. What does their home look like? How many bedrooms, how many baths? And then we want to know what their dream home looks like, or their next home, and say, okay, like, what if you were to sell your home, where would you go? And we build that out. And so we get them on home valuations, and we ask the question of, if I have a buyer that your home matches their criteria, would you be open to looking at an off-market offer? Okay. And so what we've created and what we've found is, people now, they're comfortable, but they're not necessarily happy with their home. And if you can find their next home, so I don't know if you've ever, had an impulse buy or had kind of that dream car or something, right? A big purchase of, you tell yourself you can't afford it until you find something you absolutely love. And all of a sudden you figure out your budget and you can afford it. Right. And so what we say is people make decisions emotionally and then justify it with logic. And so if we can dangle the carrot of their next home, what does it look like? Here's what that payment would look like. All of a sudden, even though they weren't thinking about it, like, I found my dream home, I can actually justify the extra $400 a month. I have a ton of equity. If I sell it, I put it all down into this home, even though I'm going from a 3% to a 6%. It's only $600 to $800, and that's not a small amount, but it's usually an amount that people can actually adjust their lifestyles to say, okay, I can do that. Well, if you put that and facilitate that transaction of, you found a buyer that, found their dream home, and now they become a seller, like, all of a sudden you've created, 2 to 3 transactions, and you can pay your bills. And so it's like, okay, like, we just have to be a matchmaker a couple times a month, and you're going to be able to make a 6-figure income. And so it's not about the hard close of, like, hey, are you buying in the next 3 to 6 months? And if not, I'm not talking to you. Hey, let me create, again, a relationship that I'm going to be here to help you take care of your home. Let me go find your next home. Let me keep you updated on what your next home would cost. And you can decide when it pops up if you can make that move. And again, if we can do that a couple times a month, you can stay in the industry, actually make a very healthy income, and not be so worried that, 20 people aren't calling you every single month to just list their home.
Just list it. Yeah. So what's next for Omada? I mean, it sounds like you guys are growing really quickly. Are you looking to expand out of Utah, or just out of the Salt Lake County area?
Yeah. So kind of what's next is, we are continuing to build out the home services side, really nail down that model. How is everything going to work? But where we're at now, kind of our phase was, first, we moved the Stern team, and we needed to make sure that that didn't completely implode. So check one, we were good. The next phase was making sure that, all of our systems, our tech stack, our marketing, everything worked Omada level so that when someone closed the transaction, we could pay them. So check, that's done. And so now our goal, kind of what we're doing is we are starting to expand and bring on brokers. So as opposed to just counting the payment for individual agents, our model is set up such that we go, kind of plug in the Stern team into the independent broker so that we generate leads for their agents. And so we're going to start going and plugging in the brokers. So we brought on, honestly, last month was our first expansion broker. So we went, and now we're in Salt Lake County and Utah County. And we do plan on continuing to now go out and recruit brokers to set up our model and run our model. And as we do that, as soon as we, plug in a broker, then we plug in the home services behind them, on our app to be able to still facilitate our model. But yeah, so next step is broker expansion, and we are, looking and hoping to expand nationwide.
Well, I can't wait till you guys come to Nevada. I'll be here for it. We'll throw you a
Oh,
party.
yeah, Nevada's close by. We'll be there next month for the Zillow training that's there. So Nevada is definitely one of the states we'll be moving to fairly quickly.
I'm looking forward to it, Russell. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so one of the easiest ways is to go to our website, omadarealestate.com, or if they want to reach out directly to me, I'm definitely on social media, so Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and it's at Russell Faucette. So, super easy to find me. I don't hide, and always happy to help. So if you direct message me, in time, I'll definitely get back with you.
Awesome. Russell, thank you so much. Yeah, if you're out there and maybe you're looking to be a broker somewhere and you want a new opportunity, get in touch. Russell, thank you so much for being here. All the best to you and your team.
Yeah, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely.